picture this scene. You are sitting in a high-stakes steering committee meeting. Like the room is packed with senior leadership, the clock is ticking down, and, the air is just thick with that typical heavy corporate urgency.
Oh, yeah, you can just feel the stress in the room.
Right. And the floor is finally handed over to you to deliver your crucial status update. You've got the data, you've done the work, you lean forward, open your mouth, and immediately say something like, sorry, just to jump in.
Oh.
Or maybe even worse, sorry, I know we're short on time, but
The collective energy in the room just drops the second those words come out. It's a painful scenario to imagine because, well, we hear it constantly.
yeah.
Or we say it ourselves.
Exactly. So today, we're doing a deep dive into some really fascinating corporate English communication research to figure out why we inflict this on ourselves. The mission for this deep dive is, quite simply, to completely eradicate apologetic transitions from your professional vocabulary.
I love that mission.
Let's establish the baseline right now. You are not apologizing for interrupting. You are doing your job.
Yes. And the core tension driving this habit is actually, it's deeply psychological. Because when you look at the landscape of professional communication, especially for, say, non-native English speakers or junior professionals, or really anyone stepping into a room with intimidating power dynamics.
Wait, those high-pressure rooms.
Yeah, in those spaces, hedging language masquerades as politeness. It feels like a protective shield, You think you are showing respect for the room's time.
Wait, you're not.
No, you aren't. In reality, it functions as a heavy credibility tax. You are basically paying a toll out of your own professional reputation every single time you speak.
I struggle with this premise a bit, just playing devil's advocate. We are socially conditioned from childhood to be polite, right? To not take up too much space.
We absolutely are.
So are we really saying that being polite makes us fundamentally less effective at work? Like, why would an apology, which is designed to keep the peace, backfire so spectacularly when we are just, delivering a project update?
Because we fundamentally misunderstand how information is processed in those high-pressure, cognitively overloaded environments, we assume the apology acts as a cushion for our colleagues.
Like a buffer.
Right, a buffer. We tell ourselves, if I diminish my own importance, they'll be less defensive and more receptive to my data. But the foundational principle we have to establish from the source materials is this. An apologetic transition does not soften information. It actively obscures it.
Hides it.
Yes. The apology does not protect you as the speaker. It just introduces cognitive static that distracts your audience from the actual signal.
That sounds theoretical, but the data we have here takes it totally out of the realm of theory.
Oh, the Stanford data.
Yeah, the research from the Stanford Graduate School of Business,
Yeah.
they looked directly at this phenomenon. They analyzed speakers who use hedging language before making requests. And the finding, those speakers are 35% less likely to receive a timely response compared to those who state their request directly.
Wow. Think about the massive implications of that 35% drop-off. If you make 10 requests in a week, 3 or 4 of them simply vanish into the ether purely because of the linguistic wrapper you put around your words.
Right, the room isn't processing your politeness at all.
No, they are processing a lack of urgency. The subtext of the word sorry in a corporate update just tells their overloaded brains that whatever comes next can probably be, ignored or deferred.
So let's ground this. How does this credibility tax manifest when you're physically in the room? Like, what does burying the lead actually look like in practice?
I can map out exactly how this plays out because I actually lived it early in my career.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was managing this highly visible project that had hit a catastrophic roadblock. We were completely stalled. So I spent days working back channels, calling in favors across departments, working late.
Doing all the invisible heavy lifting.
Exactly. And eventually I managed to completely resolve this massive blocker. It was a huge win for the team.
So you walk into the next status meeting, ready to collect your well-deserved praise. You save the timeline.
You would assume that's how human behavior works, right? But I walked into a room where the agenda was overpacked and people were visibly stressed. The VP was tapping his pen, checking his watch.
Oh, that sets a mood.
It really does. So when it was my turn, my brain prioritized lowering my threat level over sharing my success. I didn't want to seem arrogant or disruptive to their stressed energy. So I opened with, sorry, I know this isn't the main agenda item, but I wanted to quickly mention that the blocker is cleared.
Oh, wow. You wrapped a major strategic victory in an apology for taking up, 30 seconds of airtime?
Yes. And the result was devastating. Just crickets. The room offered a few distracted nods and immediately pivoted to the next act of fire. By framing it as a minor apologetic interruption, I buried the good news.
They didn't even hear it as a win.
They didn't hear it at all. The worst part was the fallout. The room failed to register the information entirely. Weeks later, a senior stakeholder sent a panicked, angry email demanding to know why the issue was taking so long to resolve.
Are you serious?
Completely. They hadn't even realized the problem was fixed because my language signaled to their brains. This information is not important enough to remember.
That perfectly illustrates the Stanford data in action. You didn't soften the delivery. You essentially erased the reality of your own hard work.
Exactly.
But the sources provide a very specific word-for-word replacement to break this habit. When you are transitioning into positive news, you drop that, sorry, this isn't the main agenda item reflex. Instead, you use this exact phrase. You say, here is some good news worth noting.
I love that phrase. The mechanics of it are deeply effective. Stating it this way gives your success the exact weight it requires to anchor in someone else's memory.
Right.
You are literally forcing the room to pause and cognitively recognize positive momentum. You are choosing not to treat your own accomplishment like a trivial interruption.
You are planting a flag in the ground. Here is some good news worth noting, and then you follow it with the concrete facts. But, if burying a win is frustrating, burying bad news is actively dangerous.
Oh, absolutely. It's a project killer.
Why do we hedge when the project is failing? It's like whispering a fire alarm. The building is burning, but you're leaning over and quietly mumbling, sorry to bring this up, but I think there might be some smoke.
Right.
The people around you just look confused. They see you're nervous, but they don't know if they need to evacuate or just, open a window.
It's so true. And we do it because nobody wants to be the messenger who gets shot. When the news is bad, we feel responsible, even if we are just reporting a structural failure. So we use words like might be or possibly to create distance between ourselves and the failure.
To soften the blow.
Yeah, but as you pointed out with the whispered fire alarm, it just creates ambiguity. It allows a room full of busy people to choose the path of least resistance, which is to ignore the potential problem until it explodes.
Which leads us to the fix for delivering hard truths. When you have concerning news, the sources tell us to use this exact phrase. I want to flag something directly.
Notice the shift in framing there. It transforms the bad news from a hedged possibility.
Something they can ignore.
Right, into a stated, unavoidable fact. I want to flag something directly. Commands immediate professional respect. It signals that you are a competent analyst identifying a reality rather than a subordinate apologizing for creating an inconvenience.
And once you've successfully flagged that bad news, you usually need the room to take action. This is notoriously the hardest part of any status update, forcing a room full of distracted executives to make a concrete choice.
It is the absolute worst.
The default reflex is always something awful like, sorry, I know everyone's slammed, but I do need a decision on this at some point.
Oh, at some point translates to never in corporate English. You're giving them an out.
Exactly. So here is the specific fix for forcing a decision. You look at the stakeholders and you state, this is the decision point I need an answer today.
That is arguably the most powerful phrase in the entire source document.
It really is.
It functions as a conversational stop sign. Think about the usual flow of a meeting. It is a continuous highway of context, updates, and vague discussions. When you say, this is the decision point I need an answer today, you physically shift the room's posture.
You break the highway.
Right. Stakeholders go from passively receiving information, leaning back in their chairs, to actively having to problem solve. You are no longer asking for a personal favor. You are strictly managing the project's critical path.
So we've covered claiming wins, flagging immediate disasters, and forcing choices. But a status update is usually broader than just the active fires. You have to guide the committee through the rest of the landscape.
Right.
How do you communicate a risk that isn't a full-blown emergency yet? Usually people apologize for sounding paranoid, like, this might be nothing, but I just wanted to mention.
Which instantly undermines your analytical credibility. It tells the room you don't even trust your own instincts.
Exactly. The replacement phrase for communicating risks is, one thing I am watching closely is.
In terms of professional perception, this phrase is invaluable. It flags a potential future issue, but it frames you as a vigilant, forward-thinking leader.
You're paying attention.
Yes, you are demonstrating that you look around corners, but without inciting panic or sounding anxious. You aren't claiming the sky is falling. You are simply doing your job of monitoring the weather.
Speaking of navigating the update, let's talk about the awkward bridges between topics. The impulse to fill the silence with an apology is incredibly strong. Like, sorry, moving on. The next thing is,
We are literally apologizing for the structure of our own presentation.
it makes no sense. The fix provided in the sources is brilliantly concise. It's just moving to the next point.
It sounds almost too simple when we say it out loud, but try sitting in a room and saying those exact words and nothing else. People struggle with the silence that follows.
They really do.
But there is absolutely no reason to apologize for transitioning to a new topic. This phrase provides a clean, unapologetic bridge that maintains the forward momentum of the meeting.
Eventually, you reach the end of your agenda. The urge to trail off weakly is a massive trap. Do not finish an otherwise stellar update with, yeah, I think that's it for me. Sorry, that was a lot.
Oh, please don't do that.
You just punctured the tire of your entire presentation. The exact phrase for closing is, that covers my update. Happy to take questions.
The psychology of the closing statement is critical because of the primacy and recency effects.
Okay, let's pause and ground those terms. You just threw out primacy and recency effects. What does that actually look like in the human brain during, say, hour 3 of a steering committee?
So think of a busy executive's brain like a computer with a very limited RAM buffer during a long meeting.
Right.
Cognitive load is at maximum capacity. They physically cannot retain the entire middle of your presentation. The primacy effect dictates they will remember the very first thing you said, the hook.
Makes sense.
And the recency effect dictates they will remember the very last thing you said, the close. If your close is, sorry if that was a lot, you are programming their recency buffer with insecurity.
You're leaving them with a bad taste in their mouth.
Exactly. But saying, that covers my update, happy to take questions, signals total completeness. It neatly hands the floor back to the room without a single drop of hesitation.
It's so clean.
It is. But I am thinking about the listener who is internalizing all of this right now, but who works in a deeply traditional top-down organization.
Oh, the hierarchy question.
Yeah. If you are dealing with extreme seniority or cultures where deference to hierarchy is culturally ingrained, isn't this level of directness going to read as insubordinate? Does this advice ignore the reality of corporate hierarchy?
That is such a good point, and it's the exact friction point the sources anticipate.
Yeah.
Yes, in highly traditional rooms, pure, unvarnished bluntness can be misinterpreted as arrogance or lack of deference.
Right.
But the solution is not to regress back to apologizing. The sources provide what they call the phrase of the week for opening your update. The baseline phrase is, here is where we stand, plainly.
Which is incredibly direct. It promises the room an unfiltered account before the data is even presented.
Exactly. But when you are in that highly hierarchical room, you deploy the register-adjusted variant. You say, if I may, here is where we stand, plainly.
Oh, that addition of if I may is a fascinating piece of linguistic engineering. Let's look at why it bridges that gap. The actual content of your update, the data, the risks, the deadlines, remains entirely direct and unvarnished. Only the frame around the data adjusts.
That's the beauty of it. If I may, operates as a courtesy wrapper. It defers to the room's hierarchy and acknowledges the seniority of the executives at the table, while still protecting your right to speak with absolute clarity.
You are demonstrating respect for their elevated position without showing disrespect for your own expertise.
Right. It is the difference between politely bowing as you enter the boardroom versus walking in hunched over for the entire meeting. You offer the initial courtesy, and then you stand up straight and deliver the facts.
I think we should actually put all of these mechanics into practice. We need to hear the rhythm and the tone of these phrases when they are strung together in a natural, high-pressure sequence.
Let's do it. I will take the role of the workstream lead, delivering the status update, and you play the role of the silent, intimidating steering committee, analyzing my every word.
I am ready. The floor is yours.
Okay. If I may, here is where we stand, plainly. Here is some good news worth noting. The vendor integration, which was heavily stalled, was successfully completed at midnight last night.
Hold on. Do you feel how that just shifted the energy?
Yeah, it feels different.
The courtesy wrapper opened the door smoothly, but then the good news landed as a concrete, unavoidable fact. As the committee, I am forced to mentally log that win before you even take your next breath.
Okay, picking it back up. However, I want to flag something directly. The server load during the integration test spiked well above our safety threshold. We cannot proceed to phase 2 without upgrading the capacity. This is the decision point I need an answer today on whether we unlock the emergency budget for those servers.
Stopping you again because the contrast is stark. There was no whispered fire alarm. There was no, sorry to bring this up.
No apologies.
Right. You made the server issue an objective reality. More importantly, when you hit me with, I need an answer today, my brain literally switched from passively listening to active problem solving. The bottleneck was entirely transferred from your shoulders onto the committee's desk.
It forces them to act. Okay, continuing. Thank you for the approval on that budget. One thing I am watching closely is the QA testing timeline. With the server upgrade, we have lost 2 days of buffer. We are green for now, but I am monitoring it daily.
Hmm.
Moving to the next point. The marketing assets are fully approved and ready for launch.
The momentum holds up perfectly there. You flagged the QA risk without sounding panicked or apologetic, just vigilant, and the transition to marketing was seamless. The total absence of, moving on, keeps the room's energy elevated and focused on the work.
And then to finish. The assets will be deployed on Monday as scheduled. That covers my update. Happy to take questions.
And we are done. That is how you command the space you occupy.
You know, when you strip away the conversational apologies, it genuinely feels different in your chest. What is left standing is just pure, unadulterated competence.
It really is. Summarizing the journey we've just taken through these 6 exact phrases, everything circles back to shattering a single illusion. We have to stop pretending that apologizing makes us sound professional.
Because it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. An apologetic transition does not soften your information. It obscures it. It buries your wins in the noise. It dilutes your warnings until they're ignored. And it gives overloaded stakeholders an excuse to bypass your requests.
So to build this new muscle, we have 2 specific, actionable practice challenges for you to execute this week.
Challenge number 1 focuses on the micro habit. Over the next few days, try to catch the specific phrase, just to add, right before it fully forms in your mouth during a meeting.
You will feel the impulse rising.
Oh, you definitely will. Catch it, stop it, and replace it entirely with the exact phrase, one additional point. Pay attention to how your jaw sets differently when you make a statement rather than an apology.
And challenge number 2 is structural. Before your next formal status update, physically write out your bullet points. Print the document out, take a red pen, and literally cross out every single instance of sorry, just, and I know we're short on time that you naturally drafted into your notes.
Yes, physically cross them out.
Visually eliminate them from your page so you cannot lean on them as a crutch when the pressure hits. Treat those words like severe typos in an important document because structurally, that is exactly what they are doing to your credibility.
It ultimately comes down to respecting your own labor enough to present it clearly to the people who need to hear it.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over as you walk into your next high-stakes room. If you strip away all the apologies you've been making simply for taking up space, what else in your professional life might you suddenly realize you are actually doing excellently? Because when you stop apologizing for doing your job, the people around you finally start realizing just how good you are at it.